Welcome to another eDesign Codemakers tutorial for game design. In this video, we're going to look deeper into 2D animation, looking at animation states, flags, and transitions. Let's get started. Now, when we created our animation in a previous video, we didn't really test it out. So let's test it out. By hitting the play button, what happens is it actually activates within our game window. Hey, Earl's walking. That's awesome. That means we've done our job and our animation is working. Except, why isn't Earl stopping walking? Let's figure out why. When we look at our animator, which is the animation controller for Earl, he only has one state, and that's walk. Earl is just going to keep walking until we tell him to stop. So we need to tell him to stop. Otherwise, Earl's going to get pretty tired. What we need to do is a few different things. The first thing we need to do is create another animation or a state in which Earl can be stopped. So if we right click, we can create a state. We'll call it empty, and when we name it, you can name it up in the inspector window. I like to call this one idle. In the idle state, it just means he's not really doing anything at this time. Now, you'll notice though, we don't have any animations for Earl for idle, so we need to create one. Let's go and let's open up our animation window. Again, remember, we need to click on Earl, go Window, Animation, and there we have it. Let's just do the same thing that we've done before in previous videos and create a new clip. Again, let's call it idle. Let's add our curves in. There. Now we have rotation curves for both of it, just like our walk. Except for idle, he's just not going to do anything. Let's make it nice and short. Idle animations are usually fairly quick, easy to play, and don't take up a lot of space. Look, Earl's not doing anything. That's exactly what we want. Hey, wait a sec. It created a state for us. That's the beauty of the Unity game engine. It usually creates things automatically for you, so we didn't really need to create this one, but I wanted to show you how that was done. Let's delete it. I'm going to change the name of this one back to idle, just so we have it. You'll notice one is orange and one is gray. All orange means within the animator is that it's the default state, so let's change that. We're going to set this one as default, because when we start our game, we don't want Earl to be moving. Now, except if Earl's not moving, we need to get Earl walking. How do we do that? There's a couple of things with the animator controller. The key word here is controller. What it does is it actually checks for certain things that are happening and says, hey, if something's happening, I want to change the state that we're in. These two things, idle and walk, we call those states. States are really important within games because what happens is that will allow you to transition your animations so that, say, if Earl wants to go from walking to jumping, this is a way that the game can do that. Now, we want to go from idle to walking, and in order to create a transition, all we do is right click and make transition. There we go. Now we have our white arrow, and with this white arrow we just drag it and we attach it to the next thing that we want. We want it to walk, so let's click on walk. There we go. Nice and attached. If you click on the transition, it gives you some details around it. These things are a little more advanced, and I encourage you to play with these on your own time. Let's make a transition back, because if Earl stops, he needs to stay stopped. So now we can go back and forth. Except, if I hit play again, it just seems to be going crazy. It's going back and forth on its own. That's because we need conditions. The game doesn't really know when to walk or when to stay still, so we need to make sure that it knows when that's happening. And through that, we use things called parameters, or flags. I use Boolean parameters. Booleans are just basically true and false. They don't really tell you a whole bunch about something, but they really say, hey, something should be happening or something shouldn't be happening. Let's create a new bool parameter. Let's call it walk. In order to create multiple parameters, all you do is hit the plus sign, select the one you want, and then type in a name, and it's created for you. Within a Boolean parameter, the nice thing is it uses checkbox to tell us whether it's true or false. This is false, and that's true. So let's go to our transition. In our transition, there's a condition. Makes sense to me because we want to create a condition that says, hey, don't go from idle to walk unless he's walking. So let's create that condition now. And all we do is we hit the plus sign over on the menu and then select our condition, which is walk. Now, notice we have options, true or false. I say let's just leave it at true because we want him to go from idle to walk only when our walking parameter is true. I'm going to add walking to that just to make sure that everything makes a whole bunch of sense. There we go. It also updated over there. Everything is set. Now, we want it to go back to idle at some point. I like your idea. We want it to go back when our walking state is false, so that if we stop him at some point, Earl's going to stop and move back to his idle state. Excellent. Let's test it out. Perfect. Notice that when we click play and we're in our game mode, you can see the game being played here, but if we leave the animator window open, you'll notice we can see what state he stays in. Right now, he's just continually going through idle. We can actually test out our parameters by just clicking on them. So if I want to set walking to true, I can actually set that to true. Look what happens. Earl starts walking. Now if I select false, it transitions back to idle. This way we know for sure that our conditions are working. That means this animation is complete and everything's looking pretty good. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial on using the animator within the Unity game engine. Check out our further tutorials within the eDesign Codemakers tutorial series.